Hello. We have one here from Michael Sartain called When Women Tell You This, Be Cautious. This is a tale about how women like to cuck their husbands, basically. And it's proof that women will make rules for betas, break rules for alphas, and you need to know which category you fall into before you get with a girl. I personally have no problem if you want to play the husband role, if you want to play the beta role. That is actually what some guys prefer. Not all men want to be hookups. Not all men want to just smash and ass. But it's important what side that you know what side of the fence you sit on. So that's all very important. You have to be aware. So let's get into it.
In terms of girl game, and this is game for the girls, is that to some degree you do want to sell purity, but you want to allow it to progress each time you meet the guy.
I say this on my show all the time. I was like, when a woman keeps telling you she won't sleep with you on the first date, and she just keeps bringing it up over and over again, you want to know why that is? It's because she slept with someone on the first date. You talk about the concept of women selling.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, I'll extend it further. I'll say any woman who talks negatively about purity or set standards, like I don't do X, I don't X, it's because they've done X and it's pissed them off. They've either made a mistake of it, they've sold a bit of their purity and now they're guilty. Any woman who has any negative aversion towards pretty much anything is because they've had a negative experience with it. Women who are like, "Oh, I don't want to do this in the bedroom. I don't want to do that," or I'm not really into this." It's because they know that they're not into that because it's happened to them. Like a lot of the reason women become asexual, for example, is because they've had sexual trauma or abuse in their childhood in the past. So the same can be extended to dating, where it's like the reason women say, "Oh, I'm not going to sleep on the first date. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to your place," is because they've been down that road and they've either been hurt or they feel guilty about being led down that road. And it's really that simple.
Purity, or telling you that they're celibate. Can you go over that?
Yeah, sometimes on dates you'll come across girls who will make it clear or very overt to you that, hey, my intentions tonight aren't sexual, or I've been in this phase of my life, so don't be expecting anything. And that tells me a few things. Like if they're celibate, two reasons. Either you're celibate because you weren't celibate for a long period of time, and now you're in a phase to where you kind of want to take a break from all the D you've been taking.
The epiphany phase that Rollo talks about. Yeah.
Exactly, especially older women, once 26, 27 plus, especially. Or two, you're just plain out lying. You're just trying to sell purity to me. So
I would say it's that. Like when a woman says, even the older women who are trying to leverage purity now that they've reached the epiphany phase and they've reached that point where they're like, I actually need to start leveraging some purity. Even then, I don't believe they're actually celibate, because what's to stop them from just taking dick on the side and lying about it? There's really no reason for them to actually be celibate. All they need to do is to convince the guy that they're celibate so that he thinks that they're pure. That's really it. There's no incentive for a woman to actually stay a virgin unless she's religious or has some kind of moral values.
that I can take you seriously because you see value in me, or in some type of way I position myself in the husband box, and for that reason you don't see me as a fun time, and sometimes I'll put myself in this box by accident, through conversation. If I'm too like invested into like her life or career, or like what you want, like sometimes you can put yourself in that husband box, and for that reason a woman will kind of change her mind about you. So for the most part, is has almost always been a lie once I get to know the girl, and I kind of do, we have conversations and I backtrack. I'm like, okay, you actually were not a celibate throughout that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an important concept, kind of red pill basic 101, which is women will place you into one of two boxes, either the husband box or the alpha Chad fun time box. And these are two distinct and completely separate boxes. I used to be under the impression that when women were sleeping with Chads, it's because they were aiming too high for a partner. Like, women sleep with Chad because they want Chad to be their husband and they're just aiming way too high. But this is actually not the case at all, and it's something you have to understand is women fundamentally have two different compartments for guys. You're either a husband, security, beta type provider, or you're a fun time. And the women are not necessarily looking for commitment from these fun type of guys. And how can I prove that? They don't make rules. They give their body out for free. They don't have they don't hold these guys to any standards at all. They throw themselves at these guys. They're not looking for commitment. Now, if a woman is with this type of guy for a long time, she might then say, "Oh, I've gotten to sleep with him. I've gotten the alpha seed. Now I might aspire to tying him down. Wouldn't that be nice?" So they'll try to maybe project a beta type role onto this type of guy to get all their needs met through one guy if they can. But distinctly, they also fundamentally understand that guys exist for different purposes and they will classify you. And so sometimes, like, they'll take an alpha and they'll say, "Oh, he could also be a really good father. Maybe I'll try to prime him for the role of a father as well," which is women trying to get alphas to commit. And sometimes women will do the same thing with betas, which is they'll kind of elevate the masculinity of their beta type provider to kind of convince themselves they've also secured something of an alpha, because it's convenient to only work with one person. If you need alpha seed and beta need, it is easier for them to just do it with one person and to have that one person fulfill both roles. That's fundamentally much simpler. But they do have a fundamental capacity to look for both in two different people. And they have a clear delineator for you as a guy. They put you in one box or the other, and they fundamentally know which box you belong into. And the easiest way I can think of to tell is what box you belong into as a guy is if you have a woman who's setting standards for you, a woman who is gatekeeping you, and a woman who is applying some sort of boundary to you. That's a clear sign that you are a beta, and she needs evidence of your commitment before she gives it to you.
You know, they just love selling purity to guys who they find very attractive, or
Yeah.
they want some sort of commitment from.
Sleeping with your ex apparently didn't count. That's what they were saying. Yeah, no, the selling purity thing I think is really interesting. Uh, when they say that they're celibate or something like that, or something to that effect. The other concept, the reason why I think it's really
Yeah, and that's something you have to understand too. Is at the end of the day, they're selling purity. They're not actually pure. There's nothing to prove that they're actually pure. So they're really just saying it. And when they say it, you should interpret it as, "Oh, they're trying to convince me of something," as opposed to how they actually are. Meaning they want you to commit, they want you to treat them seriously, they want to look good in your eyes, which is actually a good thing. Now, it can be bad because they're lying to you, potentially lying to you, trying to trick you. But at the end of the day, they're really just saying shit. And that's what you have to pay attention to.
really important for guys to understand this, to grasp this concept. I just finished Alan Roger Curry's one of his books yesterday or a couple days ago, and one of the things he talks about at the end is why men become misogynists. And I don't agree with everything Alan Roger Curry has to say, but I do agree with this very much so. It's not when a man gets rejected by a woman; it's when a man wastes his time believing that a woman is like sitting there, like she's selling purity. She's like, "Oh, you should just wait. We're not gonna have sex on the first date, second date, third date," and then she becomes like his male girlfriend, and then he finds out that she did sleep with a guy the first time she met him while their friendship was going on. That's where the resentment actually comes. And if you don't understand this concept of women selling purity, you can put yourself into that trap.
Yeah, this is kind of a depressing truth once you realize it, which is that if you show effort, if you show security and commitment to a woman, you're actually belittling yourself because she's gonna go, "Oh, this guy's a beta, he's lesser than an alpha." And by actually showing commitment and showing effort, you're actually kind of degrading yourself to a degree, and you're telling her that you're not you're not the top tier man, which is kind of unfortunate. And you'll never have the same unlimited access to her heart, to her body and soul that these alpha types will, even though the alphas do literally nothing. They don't do any work. They don't buy her anything. They don't treat her well. It's kind of an unfortunate key of reality that guys have to understand. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, exactly. I have a few beliefs that might be controversial. The first one is that no girl is ever like truly single. They're always either
Huh.
talking to a guy, planning to meet up with a guy, currently sleeping with a guy, whether it be their ex or a past guy, or planning to sleep with a guy. Like, no girl's like truly ever just chilling. And if they are, then it's purely by choice for the reasons that I mentioned before. But yeah, and but also,
Well, there's an element too where these guys are in the big cities. Of course, every girl they're talking to in the big city isn't going to be single. They're all going to have a bunch of guys on their phone. If they have social media on their phone, they're not single because they're getting a bunch of attention from guys. They're reaching out to guys on Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and Instagram. Yeah, I would agree, but that's what happens when you pursue secular people for a non-committed, non-meaningful relationship. That's just kind of how the game goes.
in terms of girl game, and this is game for the girls, is that to some degree you do want to sell purity, but you want to allow it to progress each time you meet the guy. So most guys are going to classify you as, you know, a slut or easy if you sleep with him on the first date, or especially if it was really fast, like you guys talked for 20 minutes and then took you back to your place. Yes, and guys are going to think you're easy. However, if you let things physically escalate a little bit each date, so the first date, yeah, you guys hug with a kiss. Second date, you make out with some light touching. Third date, he gets close, you know, some nipple play or something. Fourth date,
Right.
you go all the way. And
Okay, yeah, this is kind of gay. I'm not even gonna lie. This whole like, oh, you need to slow progression. There's no basis for this. In my opinion, like how would I run things? You should not date for like 2 years and wait 2 years as boyfriend girlfriend to get married. You should get married within the first year, first 6 months. And I mean, of course, that's also dependent on no fault divorce and you guys take it seriously and she's a virgin and the economy is not fucked and actually allows you to raise a family on a single income and buy a house on a single income. I'm talking about right? The ideal world. Ideally, you would get married after 6 months to a year and you would take it seriously and you would actually treat it like a full-time job, getting to know this person, and you wouldn't have sex, you would wait. And the solution to this isn't really like, oh, we need to have sex in the middle and kind of a slow progression. The solution is don't wait around your whole life until you're 30 to get married. That's really the simple explanation. We're biologically programmed to have kids in our teen years, in our late teens and early 20s. Why are we all waiting to our late 20s to start having kids and start building a family? It just biologically doesn't make any sense. So, but this is kind of what you have when you have a secular, baseless, groundless population trying to make rules for dating. It doesn't make any sense because they're trying to piece together a machine that they don't understand, that they don't have the blueprints and the foundation for. And it's like, you need marriage, you need commitment, you need them to take each other seriously. I mean, if you're trying to be a guy who's just a fun time, why would you even bother demanding any kind of purity? Why would you tell girls to even leverage commitment a little bit? Like, just go have fun. If women want alpha seed and alphas like this guy want women, why can't you just go have casual sex on the first date? Why not? Because it feels easy. But that really shouldn't matter. What it is you don't want to admit that you're a lot more hedonistic and uh, foundationless than you actually are. Which I'm like, if you want to be alphas and go have sex with a bunch of women, and if the women only want alpha seed, don't play this dumb commitment game. Don't play this dumb, oh, first date I'll kiss him but not do this, and then second date he can see under my skirt, and then but not have sex, and then the third, fourth date I'll do. It's just gay. It's like, just go have sex, you degenerates.
if girls would approach it more that way, you know, the guy would still be able to get what they want, or it will be mutual. Both will get what they want. But also the guy will also respect the woman more, and for that reason, it will turn into something more fruitful. And that's personally something that also has happened to me and the girl who I'm seeing now, is that the progression happened
I mean, I
very
kind of
fast.
agree with the base concept, which is you want to leverage commitment for sexual access. That's the basic concept behind getting men and women in a meaningful relationship together. Is you slowly leverage more and more sexual access for more and more commitment from the guy. But it doesn't really work. Like, the fourth date is not when you should have sex. Like, you should demand a little more commitment from the guy than four coffee dates. You know what I mean? It's a bit goofy.
She was, I'm not sure if it was planned or it was probably strategic,
Yeah.
but the way she went about that was very, very, very good, and I applaud that for her because it definitely worked.
Yeah, and I talked to my girlfriend, and it was the third night that we were hanging out. But by the way, I was hosting a bikini competition in Cancun, and there were 70 girls competing. And it was the third night we hung out that we ended up, being together. And she told me, she's like, I wanted to on the first night, but I wasn't going to do that on the first night. So that's another thing that you find out, is their genuine desire. I don't. Like, it's not a problem if a girl makes a guy wait 2 or 3 dates. It's just that if you're gonna make me wait, but Chad and Tyrone don't wait, that's where I think a lot of girls don't see where the issue is, and a lot of guys don't recognize that you think you're a woman selling you purity, and it's her adaptation for you to believe she's pure, and she's not deliberately lying to be malicious. But it's a situation where she's doing this so that you'll respect her more and find her more.
Right, yeah, and guys fundamentally need to understand this. I'll say it one more time, is that if a girl, now there's some girls who are virgins, right? Unicorns do exist, kind of somewhere in the church in Nebraska, in a community of 30 people. They exist somewhere. But by and large, if a girl is making you wait, she's basically cucking you for the alpha. That's what you need to understand, is she's making you wait. She's making you jump through hoops while she's going having sex and throwing herself and panting and begging for these alpha type guys and giving it to them right away. And you're basically getting cucked. And that's why guys don't want to do it. This whole illusion of like, oh, I'm saving myself for you, and I'm just saving myself. No, you're not. Like, stop lying. Be gone.
More attractive. So it does, that whole thing does become very difficult. But I think the term I like, I've heard before, is women break rules for alphas and make rules for betas. And if you don't recognize that as the case, then when it happens to you, you're going to be very upset. I can't think of anything that would probably make a guy more upset than that whole concept of like spending a bunch of time and money. And I'll give you one other thing. You mentioned before about leading with money. I live in a city, and so
it is biological reality, though. It is biological reality. It's programmed into women to cuck betas for alphas. It's just true. They're biologically programmed to give it all up to alphas for free and then demand, and it's evolutionarily strategic for them to do that because it's based on the need. If they need alpha seed, there's no reason to make them wait. And if they need commitment from the beta, then they're not going to give it to him for free because they need him to exhibit commitment. So it's evolutionarily strategic, and it's perfectly logically sound, except that if you're a guy and you engage in that and you let her go have sex with a bunch of alphas and then save her at the end of the day, you're just kind of a cuck, and I'm going to make fun of you.
Where there's a lot of sugar babies. And I'll talk to a lot of these girls because I'm really interested in their mentality. And they'll always be ridiculing their sugar daddy. Always. Whenever I talk to them, they're making fun of their sugar daddy. There's something wrong. The guy falls short in some way or another. And then there's always another guy that they're sleeping with who isn't paying them. Those are the things that I've noticed. Is like when they're getting that guy who leads with money, there's always another guy who doesn't have to pay, who they're having sex with as well.
Well, there you go. That's the alpha beta dynamic. The guy giving her the money is the beta. He's the security and commitment and resources, and the other guy's the alpha. He gets it for free. There.
Really interesting concept. And if guys don't understand that, then what happens is you get led down this fairy tale path, and then those are the guys who get hurt the most.
Yeah. I've had scenarios where girls go out to these fancy dinner dates, restaurants, and I kid you not, they literally bring me the leftovers. I've been, the same night, or they see me the next day, or one time this girl was on this yacht that she got invited to by this guy. They had a party, whatever, and then afterwards she went home and cleaned off and came to me, and I haven't taken her out one time. So that's where I realized too, is that it's just different rules for different guys. And the way that I go about my communication and how I frame it, I kind of position myself in that different guy zone because of my frame and the boundaries that I kind of set whenever I'm leading the interaction.
Like the guy who doesn't count? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, okay, I want to interject here. I would actually have no problem with being made to wait. I don't really have an issue with that. The issue is that you can't make a rule for me and then break it for somebody else. That's just objectively not fair. And what you have at the end of the day is women want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to have fun and go on the yacht and go have sex with a bunch of guys and party in their 20s, and then they think that they're deserved a nice, considerate, compassionate, committed, devoted husband at the end of the day. And it's like, that's not really how it works. You can either be You can either belong to Chad as his sex slave, offered on the altar of Chad, or you can have a husband. You can't go around picking both. We're not going to allow that. At least I'm not.
When you say different guy zone, what do you mean? Like I talk about the guy who doesn't count. Like she like literally will not admit that you're on her body count, but she slept with you in Cancun. Like the guy who doesn't count.
That's definitely an aspect of it, and I'm sure I don't count list too.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the guy who doesn't even have to take her out on a date.
Yeah.
I've had many girls come right over the crib, but other guys, they have to take her out to dinner first.
Yeah.
You know, different rules for different guys.
Yeah, you'll know.
Yeah, and I'll blame the guys. Why not? I mean, obviously these women are disgusting for taking advantage of guys like this, but if you're an idiot and you're taking a girl with a bunch of tattoos out on a dinner date, treating her like a wife, you're just an idiot. Like, why are you trying to play the Christian's committed relationship game with secular women? Like, you're just fucking retarded.
Oh, you're doing it right when you're sitting at home playing Red Dead Redemption, and she leaves a dinner date to come over to your place and brings you food. I've definitely seen that before, for sure.
All right. Yeah, and that's really it at the end of the day, guys, is why would you try to play commitment and play house and play husband and wife with women who aren't virgins, and with men who just want sex? And that's really the problem at the end of the day. And there's nothing really wrong with a guy wanting sex per se. I'm not saying that that's his fault. But what's important is you can't let your desire for sex overpower your logic when it comes to how relationships work. You think, oh, this girl's giving it to me on the third date. Isn't that great? But what you have to realize is if she's giving it to you on the third date, she's giving it to everybody else on the third date, and probably an alpha on the first date. And that's just a consequence of dealing with those type of women. So you gotta stay safe, guys. Take care.